Norm Pattis, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for having me. I'm flattered.
So you're based in Connecticut, correct?
I am.
So I'm very curious how someone like you from a little sleepy town in Connecticut becomes so famous representing people who are maybe so misunderstood, the damned, the forgotten, people that do not have, that are vilified in the news, so to speak. So I find you fascinating. How did you get on the road to choosing these kind of people to represent?
Well, first of all, I want to take exception to New Haven as a small, sleepy town. I mean,
Well,
if
for
you've got,
me.
yeah, but no, I like to think that I came by my chops the hard way. I mean, I grew up on the wrong side of the tracks, and people who are misunderstood are the people I grew up around and who I was. And so I think that, there's nothing quite so terrifying as a self-righteous mob. And if someone's hated, I'm drawn to their defense because no one is the sum of their worst moments. And some of the people I've become closest to are probably some of the most vilified people around. I identify with them, I suppose.
I love that answer. So, can you give me a little bit of your history of coming up in this world, though? Where did you go to school? What made you go down that specific road? What was your first case? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so my biography probably starts the significant events at age 7 when my father left for work one day and didn't come home. I was an only child. My mother fell to pieces. I was shuffled among relatives for a while. I'm not sure how long. And when she resurfaced, she was changed. And from that
Mhm.
moment on, I was fundamentally alone. I turned up to be a reader and, um, developed a passion for books. I now own a bookstore, for example. The houses I live in, the offices that I occupy, I have 4 of them. They're all filled with books, and my office staff despairs when more arrive. Haven't you read enough? And I have a thirst to know. So when it was time, and the Big Brothers program, I think saved my life. I had a big brother in junior high that would have me out to his house. It was a 4-bedroom colonial. I thought it was a mansion because I'd slept on couches in attics. We lived in
Wow.
rooming houses, my mother and I, for years with very unusual people. So, comes time to get out of high school. I fell, I had a job, a summer job, the best summer job a guy could have. I was a canoe instructor at a girls' camp in northern Michigan and a maintenance guy. And, and I'd get away for the summer and like, who's better than me, right? And came time to go to college. I had no plans to go, but I knew I needed to graduate high school. I also knew I needed to get out of Detroit, where I grew up. My
Mm.
mother was living with a man who just detested me. And I realized I just needed to get out of there. And somehow I had the sense to know I needed a high school diploma. As luck would have it, I test well on exams. So the assistant principal calls me down one time. We had like 4,000 kids at the school. Says, "What are your plans after high school?" I said, "I just want to get the hell out of town before I kill somebody." And so she got me into college, got me a Mother's Club scholarship, and much to everybody's surprise, maybe not hers, I turned out to be a good student. Years later,
Mm.
I ended up with a fellowship at Columbia for a number of years, taught there for a while, political philosophy, decided I didn't want to be an academic and gravitated toward law school to understand how the world works. Um, Had a divorce, a painful divorce. I'm the only lawyer I know who was paying child support and alimony during law school. Um, and but I still graduated with honors, even though I didn't go to class much. And a criminal defense and civil rights lawyer named John Williams took me in out of law school, and it was just magic. He had all these cases that needed to be tried, and for the first 5 years of my career, I could go to trial 2, 3 times a month in federal court in civil rights cases, and it was invaluable experience, and I fell in love with the law.
Right. Oh, what an amazing story. So, what do you think was the first case that made you stand out, that really set you apart and started giving you a name?
I think the first case that I recall attracting national attention. I ended up on the O'Reilly factor. I didn't know who Bill O'Reilly was because I don't really watch the news that much. I'm too busy making it.
Mm.
And
Mm.
but it involves a prisoner named Kevin King. I got a call from the public defender's office in New Haven or in Connecticut. And one of their clients had been beaten up. Would I sue the prison guards? Sure, I said. So I pick up the file and come to find out that Mr. King was placed on trial for his life. We had a death penalty back then. It was a rape murder case. He had raped his girlfriend and beat her so badly she was unrecognizable while she was babysitting her 3-year-old sister. So not exactly a sympathetic set of facts. He
Mm.
um, he tried to escape, and the guards beat him up after they caught him. And the escape attempt was very unusual. He was a short guy, and he sized up the guards in the facility and realized there was one guard who was about his height and weight. He listened carefully and realized that that guard drove a pickup truck. He knew the make and model. So one night, after his conviction, he didn't get death, but he got life. Before they were going to move him to the Supermax, he realized this is my last chance for freedom. He lured the guard into his cell. He had a prison-made knife, a shank, said, take off your uniform. When she didn't, he stabbed her in the chest, duct taped her, taped up her mouth, tied her to his bed, put her uniform on, car keys in his pocket, and almost made it out of the prison. He got to the last door when they spotted him. They chased him down a hallway. He fell onto the shank, thinking he was going to die, but it missed his heart, and they smacked him around. So I'm thinking, wait, I admire his moxie. The crimes are horrible. But
Right.
even Thomas Hobbes, the great 17th century philosopher and sort of an absolutist, said that when the state seeks to take your life, you can fight back. You contract with the state. You enter into a social contract to protect your life. So I brought the action and got a two. I'll never forget when the verdict came in. He wasn't all that badly injured. He had a fractured eye socket, some bruises. And so we're waiting, and the judge is reading the jury form. As to defendant one, 75. I'm thinking, oh, 75, $7,500. That's about right. 75,000. As to defendant two for compensatory damages, 75,000. Or no, I said, congratulations, you made your point. Then the surprising thing happened. As to punitive damages, we, the jury, find yes as to defendant one in the amount of one. And I'm thinking, okay, $1. They made his point. $1 million. Then the judge did it again. So we're sitting on a $2.15 million judgment for a man from whom we did not hide anything from the jury. I put him up on the stand in his jailhouse orange, his Supermax uniform, and told the jury that these guards behaved like the people they're supposed to protect us from, and that only a jury could protect us from lawlessness. And they did it. So the next day, I was on the O'Reilly Factor, and he's bitching and moaning at me, and I just started screaming back at him, and I think that was 1997 or 98, and so I've never looked back.
Oh my God. That just gave me chills. That's an amazing story.
It's a crazy story, yeah.